final version 23 final_alt. That was the name of the file I just spent half an hour searching my entire hard drive for. It was 2018 and I had just started my video production company. I thought I was organized, but I'd never put any thought into managing my files. Today, I would like to share the system I use to keep my files organized and easy to find. This system has evolved a lot over the last 7.5 years, and so this is the best version so far for me personally, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best system for you, so feel free to take this as inspiration and adjust according to your own needs and preferences. So there were 3 main problems with this file system. First, the naming conventions were an absolute nightmare. Final version 23 final_alt is not a searchable name. And I delivered over 50 finished client projects that year in particular, and so this gives no reference to what the actual project was. The second problem was the folder structure. Each project had a random assortment of folders with no consistency from project to project. The other issue was that there were folders at different levels of a project that often had the same name. It was a complicated mess. The third problem was the depth of the system. Sometimes I had to go 10 clicks deep just to find the file I needed. So there are 2 basic tenets to this file system. Number 1, the folders are easy to navigate, and number 2, the files are easy to search for. The biggest idea with the structure of the system is I want this system to be able to scale and flex to accommodate new information. I use the same system across all of my files, whether that is on our production company's servers or whether that's just in my computer's operating system or on Google Drive. Today, I'm going to show you the Google Drive version because I believe that's probably the most applicable to your life. So as far as folder structure goes, I would rather have a wide folder system versus a deep folder system. So I limit the depth of my folder to 5 folders deep. So for example, in my Google Drive, I have business, my production company, financial, 2025, receipts. And then I've got all my receipts there. So that is 5 layers of folders deep with the files themselves down at the 6th layer. They don't always have to go that deep, but that is as deep as I will allow my folders to get. Otherwise, you have to click too many times to get there. Now, theoretically, the file system could be as wide as we want. I personally don't think I will ever go past 100 folders wide, but if I do, the system could expand to accommodate that. So here is my Google Drive homepage. Notice it's clean and simple. Obviously, the first 2 folders are for business and personal. I want to talk about these other 2. So file transfer is a place that allows me to transfer files from one device to the next. I have computers on all 3 operating systems, and then I have an Apple phone. And so in order to make this somewhat seamless, we have a file transfer folder. This is for smaller stuff that I need to quickly get from my phone to my laptop if it's not from an Apple device to an Apple device. The next one is inbox. This is the someone sent me a file or I needed to create something very quickly that needs to get sorted later. This is basically the spot instead of like your desktop screen where I put all of the things that I need to sort into its own folder and actually intentionally think about at some point. When I sort this out is during my weekly planning session. I have a video about it. It is a 1-hour meeting with myself to review the previous week and look ahead to the next week. And it is one of the few self-improvement things I have done that has truly changed my life. I'll link it down in the description. You will also notice that I number my folders in the order I want them to appear if I don't want them to sort alphabetically. This is easy because I know exactly where my folder will be in the structure. So for example, in business, I've got them split up exactly as I'd like them. You'll notice down here, I have something labeled number 99. This is business archive. These are files that I want to keep around. I'm not quite ready to throw them away yet, but they're not active files. They're not files I'm continuing to use, and they're not files that I want to review consistently. So this archive gives them a place to be. I know if something is old, it will probably be in there. I also have one of those archive folders in my personal folder as well. So as a general rule of thumb, I try to make things as searchable as possible. No matter which operating system you're working on or Google Drive, all of these places have somewhere where you can search for files. Generally, the more broad the naming convention, the easier it is to search. For example, if I want to look for my 2024 expense tracker right there for my business, I know I can find it. That's a year-long document. If I want to narrow this a little bit, I can look at my 2022 Q1 goals right there. If I want to make it even more precise, I can say March 2022 goals right there. Super searchable and simple. If it's something like a receipt, something that I'm not going to particularly search for, I will probably go to the folder for that has a particular date. I will label it year dash month dash day. If something doesn't need a particular date, I will just let it sort alphabetically. I think that's totally fine. Another key thing for searchability is making sure the document has the project name in it or whatever you're working on. So to give you an example, I'm flying out for a trip this week, and so this is my folder for it. So you can see each of these files, they don't really have an order of priority to them, so I don't number them, and I don't necessarily need a date for them, but I at least want to have these documents available to me. So I wanted to make sure that I could search for the name. So it's got Charlotte in it, I left trip in there, and then a description of what it was. So if I need to search for it, that's fine. Otherwise, I can just dive into the folder for this particular trip under personal travel, May 2025 Charlotte trip. Another helpful thing is sorting your files where you will use them versus where you find them. So for example, I might have previously had a folder named meeting notes, and all of my meeting notes went in there for every project. Now it was super organized because it was all meeting notes, but I would rather make a project folder and then within that project folder have a meeting notes document that is all related to just that project. This structure makes it much easier for you to find and much easier if you need to share the entire project with someone else. Another important thing I always feel it necessary to talk about when talking about anything digital is backups. I know you've probably heard it before, but there's a saying that 2 is 1 and 1 is none. The idea here is that you need multiple copies of your important data that you want to hang on to. It's not if a hard drive or backup system or operating system will fail, it's when. Having worked with files for over 7 years, I can confidently say that there have been a number of files that we would have lost over that time if we didn't have a proper backup system in place. At a bare minimum, just make sure your important files are in 2 places on 2 separate drives or computers. If you want to get a little more complicated, but also more secure, you could use a 3-2-1 backup method. This is 3 copies of your data on 2 different types of media, and one of those being off-site. Whatever you do, just pick one file system and stick to it unless there's a very compelling reason to change, because a system that you actually stick to and use is much more important than the perfect system. Thanks so much for being here, and we will see you next week.